Hello, everyone, and thank you for watching and listening. Today, this is episode 46 of the BMW Blog podcast, and today we have Nate Risch on. He's a longtime BMW Blog contributor, and he's got some really exciting stuff to talk about today. He drove the BMW M4 Gt4 as well as attended the BMW performance driving school. And I actually had to read your shirt right there, remember the exact name of what it was called. But yeah, so hi, Nate. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, no problem, Nico. Thanks for having me. I'm surprised it's taken me this long to jump on the podcast. I've always had an excuse for some reason or other not to join. So
that's all right. Most people do have an excuse when they want to talk to us. No, I'm just kidding. But
yeah, I'm just it's new to get in front of the camera for me. I've always been behind it and writing stories. So actually getting in front of it's something to get more used to now. And so it's nice to get down and talk. So
yeah, right. Yeah, I mean it's always a little awkward. Like doing, I'm not used to this sort of thing yet, so I'm always a little like when it's video, I'm always a little like ah.
I know. I just I don't think I'll ever get used to it, but whatever. I just roll with it now and whatever.
Right.
But yeah,
like Ricky Bobby, like in the camera for the first time.
Right, you just kind of freeze. Yeah, totally. That's how it feels. But no, it's good to jump on. Like I said, there's been a few in the past. I wish I would have joined, but it's good to be talking with you now.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we've had some good ones to the point where I was like, I can't believe I'm talking to this person. Actually, like this is awesome. It's been a really fun experience.
I remember Jason Camisa was on, and I really wanted with him because he shares a lot of the same interests and feelings I do about the brand and products. Right. So after hearing that, I was like, man, that would have been a great conversation to jump in. But we got to realize you can't have too many fish in the pool. It just gets a little too much.
Yeah, that's why usually when we have guests on, I kind of just shut up. Like Horatio does all the heavy lifting, and I just shut up because you don't want too many people jumping in. But yeah, no, thanks for finally joining us. We're happy to have you on because you've done a lot of really cool stuff for BMW and with BMW and with us. So it's cool to actually have you on. So yeah, tell us about the driving experience. That must have been pretty awesome.
Oh man, so it was absolutely amazing. Can't complain about anything really. But yeah, so I got to go to the all new BMW M4 Gt4 Experience at the Thermal Club. It was a lot of fun. It's been something I've been wanting to go to since I think they launched it 2 years ago. So I think 2019 they launched in Europe with the Gt4 Experience, which is basically they had, I think it's about 5 different tracks around Europe where you basically went for a full day and got treated like you're a race car driver. You did you got it to wear the fire suits, helmets. You got a seat fitting.
Oh wow! So it's like all that full comprehensive experience. It's not just like here's a helmet, go take a lap. Okay.
Exactly. No, yeah, you got the full setup, the full fitting, and everything, and then you got to experience the full on race car. I mean, that's the customer racing cars that people like BMW and Turner Motorsports they race and have been successful with. So you get to jump in that exact same car, which is awesome. So yeah, when that
remarkable.
Yeah, it's just super cool to be able to do. And as soon as I saw it in Europe, I was like, yes, I want to do that. I want to go do that. But obviously with the current situations, obviously we weren't traveling to Europe to be able to do that.
Right.
But thankfully, things started opening up and they have things here now at the BMW Performance Driving Schools here in the US. I think I was their second class. But yeah, they're up and running. They do have a huge kind of profile of what you can do with this. What I was involved in was what I said is the M4 Gt4 Experience, but they also offer full day GT4 training and half day as well. So you can go and spend the whole period with the GT4. My experience was like I said, the experience, which is basically kind of gives you the feeler to kind of get you used to it, things like that. It started out with jumping into M2s and M4s to get warmed up, and then the GT4 to end the day. It's a lot of fun. Yeah,
that's pretty awesome. So you said BMW M2s and M4s to warm up?
Yeah, so basically they weren't just going to throw us into the race car and be like, go have fun. So we, after we got fitted for all of our suits and helmets and stuff like that, we jumped into the M2s. And just did some warm-up exercises, little autocross action, some lapping to kind of get up to speed, get our get our skills turned back
Yeah.
on again,
Yeah.
because who knows how long. I mean, personally, I haven't been on track in, I think, only once in the last year because of everything going on. So
Yeah. And
just
the
nice
average
to get warmed
person,
up.
the average person isn't going on track a ton. So yeah, like I mean,
Exactly.
even I, like in this job, I only go on track maybe a couple times a year. So it's always the first few laps of anything is always like, oh man, gotta remember how to do this.
So
So
rusty.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I can imagine getting straight into a genuine race car is probably problematic. Yeah.
Probably a
No,
little
that's
bit. So it's smart for them to do.
yeah. So it's cool if you got to drive the road car M4 on track and then jump in the M4 GT4. That's pretty cool. So you got to really feel the differences between the road car and the actual customer racing car, right? Like and
Yeah,
back to
exactly.
back, like quickly. Not like I've driven the M4 before, now I'm getting in this. It's like you're really getting the differences.
Yeah, totally. So basically what we did after we did the M2s is, yeah, we jumped right into the regular M4, head out to the South Palm circuit at the Thermal Club, if anyone's familiar with the tracks there.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
the one that's been there the longest. It's the first one that's been open. We did a good, I think it's about 2 lapping sessions. So probably about 30, 40 minutes of lapping in the M4s. Basically, learning the track, learning some lines. And then the second session, we talked about what's going to be different, what to expect from the race car. So, driving a road car versus a race car, the lines are completely different because the street car, obviously, you're on street tires, you got some compliance in the
Right.
suspension.
Right.
And with the race car, it's a lot lighter, you have downforce. So your turning capabilities, your braking points, everything's a little bit different. So they're talking in that second session. Okay, so in previous one, we were braking at 5. Now we'll be braking at the 4 marker. Your line's going to be a little bit different through the corner. This is going to be more, instead of rounded off with the street car, we're going to be more point and shoot. They're kind of walking you through, getting you prepared for what to expect.
Right.
A lot of things with like the braking and acceleration out of corners, how it is different between the street car and the race car.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's a great way to kind of understand the capability difference between the race car and the road car. Like you said, you're not rounding off the corners. You can just turn right in, and the turning's much sharper. There's so much more grip and aero and downforce, and you can really push those things. So I imagine that must have been really cool to experience.
Yeah, it's been super cool. I've been lucky enough to been in a couple race cars in the past, but for very short periods of time. And obviously, I've been in a lot of cars and a lot of driving in the past on track. So I felt fairly experienced, but to have a full-on factory race car with, I think that runs like $240,000 for one of them,
Yeah.
which
Right.
is just mind-boggling. An M4 costing $250,000.
Right. Yeah.
But
it
it's
is
like,
wild. Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of wild. I mean, it's like,
I mean,
it's
considering
a lot of money.
yeah, considering its underpinnings are like a 420D in Europe, you know what I mean? Which is like a little diesel, like 4-cylinder, not I won't say an economy car, but it's a fairly inexpensive premium car. And then you go up to, you can see that it can become a $240,000 race car. Is pretty
Yeah,
cool.
it's really cool. So yeah, the experience was really amazing. Some of the things that like you notice, obviously right off the back, is it's not a normal M4.
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, there's
Right.
nothing normal about it.
Right.
Just the body shape.
Right.
So literally like all the body panels, or most of the body panels, have been replaced with like carbon fiber pieces. There's aero bits all over it. So you have like a front lip spoiler, all the dive planes,
Right.
a massive rear adjustable wing, all that providing the downforce for you. And then yeah, the full race buckets. There wasn't even a dash. Like the dash is completely removed. It's just a carbon fiber makeshift dash with a little race gauge in there.
Right.
But
awesome little
some of the
steering
cool
wheel. Right. I love that thing.
yeah, the little tiny one that pops
Yeah.
off, which is just
Yeah.
the side handheld ones, which was really, really cool to have, with all the different buttons on there. You always
Right.
see like the race, like in Formula One, all the buttons and adjustments and knobs. So it's
Yeah.
cool to sit in that car and just have everything in front of you there.
Yeah.
It was really awesome.
I imagine, is that
But
super overwhelming, all those buttons?
like
Like I
I
always
thought
feel
it
like,
would be.
I'm always like, oh my God, like how do you know what they all do? And
Yeah, exactly. That's that's what I was thinking too. I was like, when we first, we got an intro session in the morning when we got everything fitted, and I thought we were going to go through all the buttons and all the settings and things like that. But it was super user friendly. Actually, I think it's more user friendly than a normal M car steering wheel.
Really? That's funny. That's funny.
Because you have, I think it's like 8 different buttons on there, and it was cycle through the dash was one of them. So kind of like your onboard computer, left and right turn signals, high beam flash, the drink bottle, and the
I always forget they have the drink bottle. That's cool.
Yeah, and that was it. That was all that was on there.
Yeah, well, I guess it makes sense to be more intuitive because there's not like volume up and down and autonomous braking and drive assist modes and different. So it makes sense that it's like more intuitive than a road car. So
yep, it's all very clear, very straightforward, so that you're not having to think about things. You can just take a quick glance and press. Some of the cool things though, like in the center console, is you do see some of that M4 still, it still has the OEM stop button,
right?
Which is interesting to see in a race car.
Yeah, like why make a new one, right? Yeah, it works.
Yeah, it's like you have one, why not just use it? So that's cool to see. It has the same. So it runs off a DCT. It's not a manual, but like the DCT knob, OEM one, which is cool, and even the OEM key is used in the car. So
really? That's funny.
Yeah, which I always thought, I was like, there'd just be like a race car. They have a lot of times the big red switches, things like that. But no, the OEM BMW keys right there strapped in the center console. So it kind of gives you that cool little tie-in though. Brings it back to it came from the road car. So that's pretty cool.
That is cool. And that has to be really cool. I would have to say that has to be the coolest for M4 customers, people who already have an M4, because if they go and do that, then they're seeing like, this is what my car kind of can be. Like my car, like obviously they're two very different things, but the race car is based off of the road car sort of. So it has to be really cool for customers. Like, this is the car I use every day, and then this is what I'm driving now. It's pretty cool. So.
Oh yeah, totally. So I mean, it still feels and like you still get that front engine rear wheel drive, the 50-50 balance of the BMW. There's a lot of times I get in a lot of other front engine rear wheel drive cars, and you just can tell it just doesn't have that balance that a BMW has that you expect from it. And it's cool to be able to, like you were saying, drive the street car, then the road car right afterwards.
Right, yeah.
Because you can definitely feel that it is the same lineage. It is the same car. It's just taken to the extreme.
Right, yeah.
And for customers, I think that's just super, super cool. I always told customers when they bought, if they're planning on buying M cars, I'm like, go do an M day. Learn what your car can do, because it will blow your mind.
Absolutely.
What it can actually do on track versus what you think it can do, And so that just takes that to that next level to, the M car the M does stand for motorsport,
Right.
So it's not marketing.
It's not marketing. Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah, because I've heard that one a lot in the comments these days. So I'm just clarifying.
Exactly. We both see it a lot, M stands for marketing now, and it is everywhere. But I mean, the reason I really wanted to get into this type of experience was the growth of their customer racing is massive. People don't understand how involved they are in motorsport now.
Right.
They kind of think, they're turning off towards marketing and branding, but in reality, over the last 6 or 7 years, their motorsports has blown up to be huge.
Right.
I mean, they have 4 different race cars now. I mean, they used to just have the factory, whatever was an M3, then the Z4, they changed it.
I love that Z4.
Oh, the Z4 is amazing.
That's great. Well, I never drove it, but it was great looking. Awesome.
Yeah. Oh man, the low and wide. Mm-hmm. It looks so good. But now not only do they have the M4 Gt4, but they have the M2 CS Racing, which it was the M240i Racing before that. But they have that one for club racers and things like that. They race it in the Nürburgring 24-hour. They have the M4 Gt4, which is for more that next professional level up. So you got people, like I said, Turner and Beamer World racing those in the classes out there. They have the M6 GT3 car, which is going to be replaced pretty soon by the M4 GT3, which is just a more powerful, higher level car. And then they have the factory cars, the M8 GTLMs.
Yeah.
So I mean, they have a massive amount of motorsport going on right now, and they're hugely successful. So it's really cool to see that. The original M3 came out of racing. It was a car that was the E30 built for racing, and they're like, hey, it's a homologation special. So it's really cool to see that their cars now, they're getting back to that. This is the M3s and M4s and even the M2s. And the great thing with the M8 is they made the race car first.
Right. Yeah. You're right.
So, they made the race car before they made the road car. I mean, they're looking at motorsport more and more now than I think they probably had. So it's cool to have all these customer levels, and that any customer can just go down, log on to the BMW Performance Center website and say, I want to go get the GT4 experience, and come down and drive their customer race car. And it was really cool. There were a few customers there. It was very light-handed because it was literally 2 days after California opened things back up.
Right. Yes.
But those customers, I mean, their eyes were wide as can be, and their minds were just blown because they just didn't realize. They're like, oh, this will be fun. And then they have a full-on BMW Motorsport engineer on hand strapping them into the car, and they're putting the helmets on. They got the radios jacked in. It's like, you're in the full-on race cars.
Yeah,
super
that's
cool.
awesome. That is cool. And I've never done the performance driving school, but I would like to, for one reason. I want to see customers' faces when they actually, because most people don't drive on track. Like even M customers usually don't take their cars to the track. So I would love to see someone who's never been on track before, never driven anything, like that before, never driven anywhere near that fast before, actually get into something like that. Because we might be a little bit jaded. We've been able to drive on track quite a bit. We've driven a lot of really fast, cool cars. But to see someone who's never done anything close to that get into an M4 GT4 must be a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, I absolutely actually love that part of it. Coming from my past where I was a driving instructor, some of the most fun things to have is just taking people out for a hot lap and showing them what the car's capable of. And their jaws drop, their eyes get big, and they're like, I had no idea. And then they can go to these performance driving schools and do it themselves. And literally, I mean, I've been lucky enough to go to both the 1 and 2 day M schools, and those customers, they get to the end of the day and they're just like staring. They're just like staring at the wall because they blow fuse or something.
Yeah.
It's just they're like, I can't believe I was just able to do that. They have this awesome little autocross circuit set up that's highly configurable that they change up. You're pushing the cars. I mean, you're flooring them off the line. You're smashing the brakes into the ABS. You're getting it sideways. They have a skid pad to where you do drift sessions. And then you go over to the big course and you're doing 135 miles an hour down the straight and smashing on the brakes. Just things you don't get to do. Yeah. And it's just so much fun. And I always tell people, they're like, oh, it's a lot of money. But I mean, I actually think it's an amazing value, the performance driving schools. So I think the 1 days are roughly like $1,500. But I actually kind of stopped going to track days myself because that's not much more money.
Right.
I think the last time I took my E46 M3 to a track day, it cost me almost $1,000 because you're looking at $500 for the fee. You have gas, you have insurance, you have tire wear. Obviously, you're going to want to do like oil change afterwards and things like that. All of that adds up.
Track driving is as a hobby is very expensive.
It's extremely expensive. So I started, after a while, it's like, well, I can just go down there, show up, you feed me breakfast, and I jump into your brand new M4s.
Yeah, then I don't have to worry about beating up because I don't have to take it home.
Yeah, exactly. I don't have to worry about, something went wrong. I have to find a trailer to take my car home now.
Exactly.
No.
It's not like, sorry, honey, I got to blow our vacation fund on new suspension because I blew mine out on track.
Right. Yeah. So it's like, you look at that and you're looking at, $700, $800 up to $1,000 for a weekend at a track day versus $1,500 to go to a performance driving school.
Right.
It's like, yeah, I tell everyone, I'm like, they're like, oh, I'd like a track day. I'm like, no, go to a performance school, because you go to Palm Springs, you stay in a fancy hotel, you get fed like amazing breakfast and lunch, and you're driving their brand new cars, burning their tires and gas, and have professional instruction. I mean, it's hard to pass up.
That's another thing. Like when you go to just, whatever track day at your local track, you're not getting professional instruction from proper drivers. Like you're not getting real racing drivers getting you in the car, telling you exactly how to, how to do it, showing you how to do it. Like you come out of the performance day a better driver, than if you were just go to your average track day and just beat the hell out of your car, not really knowing what you're doing. You know what I mean? So it is a great value, because it's not only fun, but it's actually like, it's educational. You're becoming a better driver. So it's a pretty good value when you look at it that way. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I've been to quite a few. I mean, nowadays there's so many different people offering track day events.
Right.
Like in the past, it was just the car club, which, they have instruction, which I think is very good. But I mean, they're people who have been doing it over years, and they do have it, but that's not their profession. That's not what they do every single day. It's something they do at track days.
Right.
But like most of the others, it's hit and miss. You probably just show up and drive and leave, and you're like, oh, that was fun, but you may not have learned anything. Right. Here, they're on the radio nonstop. They're telling you techniques, what you need to improve. You'll even get timing sessions to where you can see if you're improving, things like that.
You actually see your progress. Yeah.
Exactly. With the M4 Gt4 Experience, which is really cool. Obviously, they take it to the next level, because the car's got VBox and all the data logging systems. You actually get your VBox data.
Oh, that's cool.
So they record. Yeah. I've been watching it. One of the guys that was at the school with me sent me messages. He's like, I've been watching this nonstop for the last couple of days, because they have a video pointed right at you and then a video pointed forward. And you get like, it's like full race car. So you get all your throttle and your braking pressure and your speed and your G-force and your lap times and your best lap, and everything's on there. And it's got all this data. So it takes it to the next level. But it's super cool to see all of that. And that's one thing that's really cool about this experience is so now you get the taste of it. And if you wanted to, you can go back and get those the larger packages. I think it's a little bit more expensive, but it's not the experience. It's actually where they start digging into that with you. The engineer and driving instructor will sit down and be like looking at your data log and be like, okay, you could brake later in this corner. You can actually get on the throttle a little bit earlier here. You're losing time in this section. And they can actually start digging into that stuff and going to that next level and really making you a better driver.
Yeah, no, that sounds super cool. Actually, at least for like guys like us, like real nerdy car nerds, that kind of stuff. I don't know about you, but like graphs and little information about that, I would go nuts over that. Like little the VBox video, I would probably watch that constantly. Like that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm notorious at people coming up to asking me, they're like, "Oh, you do high performance driving? How fast have you gone?" And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, because I'm not paying attention to the speedometer. Yeah.
No, I'm not looking down going, okay, I'm going this fast. I'm just driving. I go as fast as I'm driving by the seat of my pants,
as fast as my courage will let me. Yeah,
exactly. I know I pulled fifth. I maxed it, whatever that is.
Right.
It's like I went as fast as I could until I had to brake.
Right. Yeah.
So being able to go back and look at that stuff and actually be like, I reached 138 on the end of that straight,
right. Yeah.
Things like that. It's actually pretty cool to watch and look at all the time.
Yeah, no, I would absolutely love that. And that's another thing. It's almost like an amusement park experience, right? Because like you get memories that you get to keep. You get something that you get that data back, you get that VBox stuff back. Like it's not like you said, going to a track day is very expensive on its own. And you don't get, the only thing you come back with is worse oil and worse tires. You know what I mean? Like you come back from this and you have this crazy, like this awesome experience as if you went to like, an amusement park like Disneyland or something. You're bringing back this crazy experience that you can share. It's that's really cool. You know what I mean? Like that's awesome. Plus, like you said, they feed you breakfast and it's nice and relaxed. You know, you're not
Yeah,
doing any work. It's nice.
that's a really great point, because I remember when I first started going to track days, and you're worried about tire pressures and making sure your lug nuts are tight, and oh, when's my session? Am I supposed to be working a corner? You got all this stuff you're worrying about. You're like, oh, I need to eat lunch, so
Yeah,
you're like
right, right.
scarfing down a Gatorade and a granola bar. You don't get to think so much about, the driving until you're actually doing it.
Right.
And so, yeah, like the experience of like theme park is totally right, because you jump in your ride and you experience and you get to enjoy it and not think about all that other stuff.
Yeah. It's
And that's
carefree enjoyment.
just exactly. And they take care of absolutely and everything. So where you just don't have to, yeah, you don't have to worry about anything, which is just makes it so much more enjoyable.
Yeah, for real.
And they even go next level. So they've just partnered with a new hotel that they put me up in called Hotel Paseo, which is this little luxury boutique hotel in Palm Desert, which was fantastic. I was expecting, normally you go to a track day and you're in Motel 6 in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And with this, I'm in Palm Desert. I'm right off of all the fancy restaurants and stuff in this great hotel. I arrived, I hung out at the pool in the hot tub the night before. You get transported to the track, and then obviously have everything there. And then you're back at this really nice hotel, which has a spa. Like I could have got a massage if it was currently open afterwards. It just makes the whole thing just like an amazing day. It's like
Right.
the whole thing I was kind of, talking with them about was like, I was like, this is what people dream about. Like, this is what guys ask for like Christmas. They're like, oh my God,
Right.
that'd be amazing to do this. And like, that it's just, it all wraps it all into this, this amazing experience.
So that give me forgive me if my ignorance here, but give me a
No
breakdown
worries.
of like what is included in, like, when you buy that package, what is included? Is the hotel, everything's included in that? Is the hotel stay, the
So
food?
everything at the track's included.
Okay.
So when you get the package, I think it's like $27.95 for the
Okay.
M4 GT4 Experience. Don't quote me exactly. You can just go to the website and look it up. But it's basically, you get breakfast, lunch. You get all the V-Box data afterwards. You get all the driving experience thing like that.
Okay.
You get insurance is included in that. So if anything goes wrong for any reason, there's insurance backup. It's everything included at the track. But like I said, they have a partnership with Hotel Paseo now, to where you get 25% off your stay, which is nice. I mean, it just kind of ties everything together.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to go, if you're going to go to Palm Springs and spend the day if you live in SoCal, you can just drive there. But a lot of people are flying in, especially this time of year. It's like during the winter is the perfect time to go. It was 72 degrees and sunny when three-quarters of the country's frozen. Even Texas was frozen. Yeah, and I'm in Palm Springs all sunny and warm driving cars. I mean, it's just awesome to just fly into Palm Springs, head to a really nice, hotel, go to the track day. And I mean, in the long run, I mean, if you're probably to total everything up, you're probably looking at, like $3,500, but for what I got there. But I mean, for what you get, it was, I drove a factory race car,
Right. Yeah. Like if you're planning on a track day or planning on something, you're mixing both a great track day and incredible experience with a vacation. You're like, that's the beauty of it. Like, it's not, it's like $3,500 isn't cheap, but you're taking like a mini vacation to go, drive some kick-ass, race cars. Like, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And it's something
in Palm Springs, you know what I mean? It's
in
not
Palm
like
Springs at a private country club track, which is in perfect condition.
Right. It's not like you're going to Monticello up in New York, which, don't get me wrong, Monticello racetrack is awesome. It's it's a beautiful facility, but outside of that, you don't really want to stay there.
You're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, it's like it's not that awesome. So, that's a pretty cool experience.
Exactly. And I mean, in the car, literally, like I said, I've driven some race cars in the past. This one was pretty darn awesome. So like I said, it's all stripped out. It's all caged up. You get crawled in, engineer straps you down in, you fire it up, and it's got an amazing sound. And if the viewers go and watch watch the video later on, they'll hear it. It's the soundtrack you could literally just want to listen to nonstop. And what's kind of cool is it's got that that normal inline six raspy sound, but just taken up like a huge notch.
Yeah.
Which like, yeah, I have helmet on, I have the audio in my ears, yet I'm still just like, oh my God, this sounds amazing.
Right. Yeah. It was just pure unfiltered noise. You know what I mean? Like they don't have to. Yeah. It's awesome.
They're not piping it in. There's no sound insulation.
There's no M active sound on the inside.
There's no M active sound, no insulation to block the sound. So yeah, you can feel it rattling through the car. The way it drove was exactly how I like to drive the car. So I'm actually gonna say I lost the autocross. First time in a long time, I lost at the autocross. I felt really bummed about that in the morning. I was like, wait, I lost? I'm like, what happened? But when we got into the track cars, like the guy who ended up beating me was like, yeah, you guys were pulling it away. And it's like, well, it just fit my driving style. So a normal car, even in the M cars, there's some body movement, there's a little bit of roll, some suspension. This thing, like literally, there's no suspension movement. I mean, in any little feedback you gave it would go exactly where you're pointing it. So it was very good. I'm a very kind of slow, smooth. My motions are very methodical when I'm in a car. So like autocross, you're getting in there, you're throwing it around.
I was never good at that either. It's it's like brutal in an autocross. It's on off. It's crazy.
Yeah, you're grabbing the dog by its scruff and you're holding on for dear life. And yeah, that's not my style. So like when we got on track in the M4 Gt4, and it was like every little input I gave it, so I could just be smooth and flow with it. And the change in direction is what's just blows my mind. So everyone's like, oh, it's fast. Well, actually, if you watch the video, you'll see the M4 pull away from me. So the instructor, it's a lead follow.
Right.
And the instructor was out in front of us, but the instructor's in a normal M4 on slicks. And then we're obviously in the full race car. But there's a few times you'll see when we get onto the main straight, he pulls away. And then we catch up to him at the end. And obviously there was a little bit of the nannies were on, so that as we're coming out of the corner,
I would
fishtailing. Yeah.
But customers in a purely unfiltered race car without a few nannies.
So there was that coming out of corners. But when we got to the corner, it was night and day. So like at the end of the straight, he kind of gapped us because he got that early lead going down the straight. But by the end of the straight, we're on the brakes right up on his rear.
Yeah.
And you can see he's putting it through the corner. He's wheeling it. We're just like, I mean, it was so easy to throw through the corner. And the amount of like lateral force he got out of it was it's addicting almost, because you're just like, you had, so in a normal street car, you go out wide, you hit through the apex, you drift, but you want to be very smooth, arc that corner.
Right. Yeah.
And with the race cars, they're very, very much, he's like, you can point and shoot a little bit more. You kind of dive in, can flip it through, and then it comes diving out. And what that does is by kind of making that a little bit more pointy at the end, you're actually lengthening that straight afterwards. So you're getting straight first. So you're actually accelerating faster out of that.
I see what you're saying. Right. Yeah.
So you're able to turn it. So when the street car has to kind of more arc through it, you can just come in, turn, and already be going out.
Right.
Early.
Yeah.
So is a little bit different, but oh man, the ability to just
that'd
be like turn.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Like I know, like in the M4s and the M2s, a lot of times, you get in there and you get in the braking zone. It all gets on those front tires. You got to make sure that the rear's, settled before you kind of get going through the corner. And then once you get coming out of the corner, you got to make sure you got that weight back on the back end before you start. You're
there's
thinking
all
this kind of
right.
Yeah, there's a lot of weight management. You're moving that around, make sure the car's positioned and in the right spot for what you need it to do.
Yeah.
And the GT4, there was none of that. It was just like, yeah, under braking, obviously it's on the front, but everywhere else it's just, it was flat, and whatever I wanted it to do, I could just make it do. And it was really, really fun to be able to do that, and just kind of mind boggling how they can corner like that.
Yeah, I've always actually wanted to drive a race car, because you see, like, if you watch any race, the capability seems insane. Like, it seems like the cars should not physically be able to turn that quickly or have that much grip, but they do. So I always wanted to see, like, what does that feel like? I've never driven any, like, any actual proper race car. I actually drove. Ironically, at Thermal Club, I was out there with Continental Tire once, and they had it was like a Porsche Cayman that was hooked up from someone. Like, it wasn't like a factory, like a real factory car. And even that, I was like, oh my God, like, this feels so much better than a road car. So I would love to see what, like, something like the M4 GT4 really feels like, because that seems like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's so I did something similar with Michelin, and they actually had the Z4 GT3 or GT
really?
LM at the time, when they launched the Pilot Sport 4S.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was mentioning with the M4 GT4, it's not the outright speed that amazes you.
Right. Yeah.
It's when they start going through the corner and you're like, wait, you didn't slow down.
Yeah. Like, where's the braking? Braking zone is way different here.
Yeah. You're like, wait a minute, you didn't brake for this corner. Yeah. They're just relying all on downforce to provide that extra traction,
right.
Yeah. There's just a few corners where I'm just like, wait a minute, you're still on the gas. This is awesome. Yeah. And it just rails through that corner, and you're just like, oh, okay, that's the difference.
Right. Yeah. And downforce is like a weird black magic, because, like, the faster you go, the more downforce you get, because the more it's pushing down on the actual car. So, like, it almost feels counterintuitive to be like, I feel like I shouldn't go this quickly, but you need the downforce. You need to go quickly. So it's kind of weird, but I would love to do that. That seems like a lot of fun. Now, how much power does the M4 GT4 have? Because sometimes the road cars are actually more powerful due to regulations, like to different racing regulations.
Yeah, good point, actually. So the one we drove it. So the M4 GT4 actually comes with what they call power sticks. So there's multiple different power sticks depending on which racing class or series you're driving in, because they all do have different specs.
Right. So different states of tune you can put the engine in.
Correct. And also they do like balance of performance and things like that to kind of even classes out. Right. The one we drove actually was a little bit less power than the street car, the way they had it set up.
Yeah, that's not uncommon, I don't think, right? To have, for certain classes of racing, usually it's not as high as what a road car can have.
The other thing to think about is also the durability of the engine.
Right. Yeah.
So on the street, you're not pushing it constantly at the top of its revs. So the wear and tear on it's not as bad. Where on the race car, you're constantly pinging off that rev limit.
Yeah,
if you're maxing out the engine. Yeah, so the life isn't as good.
Right. Yeah.
So they dial back a little bit, so that it provides more durability. But they had this one set up. I think they said it's right around 440. If I recall, which is just a little bit less than the street car.
The street car is
but obviously
4. So
they said it's just a little bit less. I think he said 430. Yeah. But it's missing a couple 100 pounds of weight.
Right. Yeah. Right, yeah.
So power to weight ratio, is better in that race car, though it is less. And that was totally noticeable. So there's quite a few times where, like I said, they had the traction control on. So the way the traction control worked in this was very obvious. The further the steering wheel was turned, the less power it would clearly give you. So you could go into it full throttle, and then as you unwind the steering wheel, you could feel it allow you to go. Yeah, so like it was very clear.
It's almost like a controllable traction control. Like you can kind of, yourself control how much, it works. That's kind of interesting. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot different than traction control in the cars, where that's kind of more like it's like cutting power. You kind of feel it kind of pull you back. This didn't feel like I was losing power. It just felt like it wasn't giving me everything.
Right. Yeah. It's like limiting how much.
Yeah, but as soon as I played with it a couple times, because I was like, oh, this is really kind of cool and interesting. I played with it a couple times. As soon as it goes straight, full power is available. So like as soon as like the faster you can get to that straight wheel, the more you're going to accelerate. So there's a lot, like I was saying, like you're trying to in the corners, you're trying to get straight as quickly as you possibly can, because you also got full power then as well.
Yeah.
So there's a few times where like I started getting it down to where I get that car turned as quickly as possible so I can get the steering wheel straight. And so the street car's got a few car lengths on me, and it'd be like, whoa, on his rear. Because all of a sudden I had all that power, no weight, and all that traction that it was just like, I could feel it like rocket out of the corner way harder than the street car did. That was a lot of fun. So then I start focusing on, okay, let's get through these corners better, because I want to get on that power as soon as I can.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that sounds awesome. I'm like very jealous actually, because that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely something to be like. Even I'm jealous of the guys who get to do that all the time, you know?
Yeah. All the instructors who are just, constantly out there. It's like, that's their job. Go out there and flog a race car. That's pretty cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, totally.
Now, so you also got the whole like fitting experience, right? You got the whole racing suit, the helmet, and they fit the seat to you, right? Because like in a race car, the seat is like, set up for driving.
Yep. So they had a bunch of different like seat pads underneath you. It wasn't like a full on like you see with the Formula One guys where you get the full, like the foam fitting type.
Right.
They just had a couple different pads in there for you if you needed, so that you're not sloshing around in the seat. You want to be extremely snug in there.
Right.
So yeah, they fit you to the seat. And there was a couple cool things about the way the M4 GT4 fits. So because it's like an endurance car, for the most part, even in the sprint series, there's usually 2 drivers. So obviously you got different heights. You have tall people like myself that's just over 6'2". The seat isn't the thing that moves, which is kind of cool. If you have sliders on your seat, that's not as safe in an accident. So the seat's bolted straight to the car, and it still has the adjustable steering column. And what's cool is the pedals are what move. So you have a little box. Yeah, you have the pedal box, and you got a little lever on the cage on the side, and you pull and you can move the pedal box front, forward and back. So awesome. It's kind of unique and pretty cool to see and do. Yeah, it's pretty cool to get that all. So yeah, you sit with the engineer, and they make sure you get into the right position. Your pedal boxes are in the right spot, obviously, the wheel and things. But yeah, the seat doesn't move, which I personally, liked a lot, because I'm notorious at, I put my left foot on that dead pedal and push myself into that seat to feel as secure as possible.
Yeah.
And to have that solid race seat just makes you feel so much more connected to the car.
I'm sure.
Which is like the M seats are very good at kind of having that extra side bolster and stuff.
Sure.
And you can cinch yourself in tight. But you still get that little bit of, you're kind of holding yourself with the steering wheel when you're driving.
It's still,
so
some level of comfort. So it can't, you can't be super snug. Yeah.
But obviously they're full race seats. So you got in, and it's just like holding your rib cage, and you start it up and you can feel it in your back. It's a super cool experience.
Yeah, I kind of wish I could feel how low you sit in it, like, because it doesn't matter what road car I get in now. I'm like, the seat doesn't go low enough, and I'm short, and I'm still like, the seat doesn't go low enough. So I would like to get into a real racing seat that's properly low.
Yeah, so that's one thing I noticed. So I normally mount my GoPro like right on my chin area of the helmet, and that's usually just perfect, because I'm taller. I'm usually looking out of the top of the windshield.
Right.
And so on my chin's usually like what most people end up seeing. And in the race car, it's a lot of my hands and the steering wheel.
Right.
Because you are so much lower. So there's a few times I started noticing, I'm like, oh crap, my video's not gonna be right. So I'm like, even like stretching my head. Yeah, putting myself up just to get a better view for the viewers. But yeah, you are so low and so just like connected to the car.
Yeah, I would
you can
love that,
actually Yeah, you feel like you feel the traction even a little bit more. You know, you always can kind of feel the limits when you're cornering. You kind of there's that feedback. You know.
Yeah. Well, there's so much
Uh,
less between your body and the what's going on underneath you. You know, there's not a massive seat track. There's not, comfy, heated seats underneath you. It's, there's a lot less
they
in
are air
between.
conditioned though.
Oh, really? The
It was
seats?
air conditioned. Yeah. So
Wow.
you know, you're in Palm Springs. It's going to be like
Yeah.
110 during the summer. Well,
Yeah.
they race in conditions like that too. I mean, they were just racing in the Middle East with the M4 GT4s.
Yeah. For like
Actually,
hours at a time. So you
yeah,
need to
hours
do
at a
it.
time. So the air conditioning unit, you do have one in the center dash there, which you can kind of feel. But the real impressive one, it goes up to the center console and literally is like right, it's ventilated seat, but it's AC right on your back. Um, and so you can activate that. And it was cold. It was actually kind of nice. Even
Yes.
through the full fire suit and everything, I could
Well, it's
feel
probably
it.
not climate control. It's probably like on off, right?
Yeah, it's just on off, and they were saying the way it's kind of interesting how it works because everyone thinks, and this is one thing I hate about going to track days with some people, and they're like, oh, I don't want to have my AC on because it draws power. I'm like, you have 444 horsepower.
Yeah.
You're fine with AC on.
Yeah, I know. Like it's
But
not like cars in the 70s where they had
yeah,
90 horsepower and the
yeah,
AC drew 20% of the power to run it because it was a old inefficient AC system. These modern things, there's modern systems are
yeah.
so great.
So, as a driving instructor, there's like people we'd be out in Palm Springs area, and they'd be like, I don't want to turn on my AC to lose
Right.
power. I'm like, the 15 horsepower or whatever it is you're losing is way
If it's
better
even
than,
that, you know what I mean? Like it's
yeah, if
probably not
it's
even
even
that.
that, compared to being hot and sweaty and
Yeah.
not being able to focus as well. But the cool thing about this is they were saying is they don't want that power loss. They want everything you can out of the
Well,
race car.
yeah, well, when
So
you're
don't,
making money on with
yeah.
with your
So
power, you need it.
exactly. So they mentioned it really quickly, but I should have asked some more questions about it. It only turns on like under braking.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
That
so it
is
like
kind of interesting.
cycles. So only under when you're, I guess, off throttle is when the AC actually starts working.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Um,
I never
so that it's not
heard of that.
sapping power out of acceleration.
Right. Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so I was like, that's kind of that was kind of a cool feature. I was
Yeah.
like, I would like to dig into. It's things like that the race car had that that obviously the street cars they don't worry about, but
Yeah.
it's cool little things just to maximize the performance
Right.
of that car.
I didn't know actually I didn't really know race cars were air conditioned just because I figured the AC system would just add too much weight and too much complexity and that they would just have taken it out. But that's pretty nice to have if you're going to be racing all day, it's,
Yeah, it felt like it was. I mean, obviously it was like 72, but actually I cycled it off because it was really good. So I mean,
yeah,
being in I've been in a fire suit a lot without an air conditioned race car, and it's brutal.
it
You're
has to be.
sweaty and like, yeah, it's like you get out and you need to chug down 3 bottles of water because it's so bad. But it was totally comfortable and like felt great. I was like, yeah, you can do this in the middle of summer and be fine. So like obviously being in Palm Springs, my guess they're going to offer this year round. And if you go in the summer, you don't need to worry too much about
Yeah.
that because the AC is actually probably better in the race car than it was in the street car because all that right on you is really
Right.
good.
Yeah, I can imagine. I did a track day with I think it was Shelby in Vegas in the summer. It was literally in the summer in Las Vegas. I think it was like 110 degrees on the track. And it was so brutal that I mean we could only do and we were in road cars, we were in like Shelby road cars with air conditioning, and like we could only do a couple of laps where it was like I'm gonna go pass out. I can't do this anymore. So I can only imagine what race car drivers, spend hours and hours in that tiny little, confined
Yep.
area. It's gotta be brutal. So yeah, AC's gotta be very welcome.
Yeah, I thought it was like I was expecting like it was going to be like someone's hot breath blowing on me, but
Right. Yeah.
like I said, I actually cycled it off a couple of times because like this is pretty darn nice.
Yeah,
So
it's funny because creature comforts isn't what you think about when you're getting into a race car. You're not like,
yeah,
there's the AC button.
yeah, exactly. But there was just so many other just cool little things like that that just made the experience so awesome. We did so one of the first sessions you go out in the cars, kind of just get familiar with the brakes. And so these are full race brakes. And so one thing with brakes is that if anyone that knows has been to a track day, your brakes get hot, they get very mushy, your pedal starts going to the floor. This car is made to do that. Yeah, it's a terrifying feeling that at the end of a session. That's why sessions are only like 15 minutes. That's one of the reasons. But this is an endurance race car. It's made to go 24 hours. And so that the brake, like, it's like pushing a brick wall.
Yeah.
Because it's got to be able to take that as it gets hot. So yeah, the brake is like rock solid. And so the first session you go out is kind of like go through, cycle everything and get it up to temperature. So it's kind of cool. Your first experience in the M4 GT4 is you come out, obviously out of pit lane, which is pretty darn cool to hear. But as you go down that back stretch, you're doing what basically what race car drivers you see at the start of the race. You're accelerating hard up to about 80 miles an hour to heat up the tires, and you're just slamming on the brakes to get the brakes up. And you do that a bunch of times. So it's just, it's just a cool experience. Cause you've seen race car drivers do that in like Formula One after they do, the safety car comes out, you're seeing them swerving and braking and,
right.
And you're always like, okay, like what's that actually doing? And you actually get to feel that it's doing a lot. It's bringing everything up to temperature, and you actually feel why they do that, and it's all those little things like that for me that I was just like, this is so cool. Because you just don't experience that. So being able to is just makes kind of it takes it to the next level. Yeah, the car is cool, it's fast, it's a lot of fun, but you learn all these little things about what race car drivers do and what you see on TV, and you just kind of start putting all those pieces together. And it's really kind of cool.
Yeah, and hopefully it makes customers better drivers, so they realize, oh, my tires actually need to be warm before I push my M4. Like I should probably do that so I don't wrap it around the tree.
That's coming a lot. That's come up. Actually, I've seen quite a few discussions recently about people getting their M2 CSs. Because they started
those are
being
really aggressive
December.
tires. Those need to be warm.
Yeah, they're on Cup 2s.
Yeah.
Which is that's a summer warm weather tire.
Yes, it
and
is.
Those cars started being delivered in December. So I know of a couple people. I've seen some posts where they've already kind of experienced what happens when you don't have a warm tire.
I don't want to hear any horror stories about the M2 CS. I know they're limited, and I love that car too much to know that there are some dead ones out there. So, that's
thankfully
bad.
From what I've heard, no damage has been done, but there have been some very scared people.
Some very sketchy moments. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like, you learn about those things and why it needs to be done.
I'm shocked actually to hear that people, because like I wouldn't say that I'm a talented driver, but we drive these cars a lot. We get used to what sports cars feel like and what they do. And I mean, I was just at BMW's Test Fest. We were at Monticello in November, and I was on the track with an M2 CS, and it was like thrashing rain all day, like on and off all day. And I could push it. It had tons of grip. Like, it's an amazing car. It's really impressive, actually. I was more confident in the M2 CS in the wet than I was in the standard M2 competition in the dry. So to hear that, like, people are having some sketchy moments, they're pushing that thing maybe a little too hard for the road.
Yeah, well, it's cold. It
is cold. That's
cold
a problem.
mornings.
Yeah,
that's a big problem.
Yeah, and no one's heating up their tires. People don't kind of take that into account. That like Cup 2s are really aggressive. They need to be hot before
they need to get warm. It's got to be a warm day. You got to warm them up. And that's what you learn in these experiences, going down to like the M track days and this M4 GT4 experience to the extreme. You learn things like that.
Yeah, that's super important. You learn about car control. You learn about grip, and you learn about managing tire heat, tire temperature, brake temperature. And those are things that, even though you're not on a racetrack, like on the road, it's not to the same extreme, but you still need to take those things into account if you want to have fun and you want to you drive down a twisty road quickly. You need to understand, like, there are levels of car control that you are fundamental to driving quickly.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point actually about our experiences. A lot of people think we spend all this time on track, but what they don't know is really we get like 3 or 4 laps.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know?
It's very little.
It's like you're there. Here's a car. You get, you get a few laps. You usually get like a warm up lap, a couple of hot laps, and then a cool down.
Yeah.
And it's so we experience it a lot, with the cold tires and with, we get very limited time, where, we get to experience it quickly in short bursts, and we do our best to portray how this car drives and stuff.
Right.
Where things like these performance schools, you said you haven't been, right?
I've never been to the performance school. I've been to thermal for several things, but I've never been to the actual performance school. Yeah.
So I know I mentioned it earlier, but like the normal M day and 2-day M schools, the first time I did the 1-day M school, I was exhausted at the end of the day. Like there was literally some sessions where I was like, can we take a break? It's been 35, 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And my arms are tired.
Right.
So it's like, it's so cool that this is available for them to go down and do, because it's even things like, we don't do that. Even though we get lucky enough to go to these, they can go down and literally spend a whole day of driving M cars on track, which is, that's why I was saying earlier, I don't do my own anymore. I'd rather just go do that.
Yeah. I mean,
so much more fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. You get a better car and, you get to really push it. And I'm actually, it's nice to also spend that much time in a single car, because you really get to get the hang of like that specific car. So like I was saying before, as a customer, you're really starting to learn about what your car can do, because you're really pushing it as hard as you can, as hard as you dare, for quite a bit of time. Like you said, when we go to those like test drives and stuff on track, not only do we only get a 3 or 4 laps, but it's in like a new car every time. So we never get to like learn the car. You know what I mean? It's like those first few laps, I'm learning the track. I'm learning where my braking distances are. I'm trying to remember which turns are where. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, done. Now next car. It's like, well, I didn't get to really understand that car. So it's cool as a customer to be like, okay, I'm going to get in this car and like really learn what my car can do. Because like if I bought an M4 and M2, I'm on the track with those, I can really figure out the limits of that car. So then when I'm on the road, I'm so much more confident in what I'm going to be doing. So that's a really cool way to think about it.
Exactly. I mean, to be able to, if you're kind of new to the brand or even new to like the M lineups, it's definitely something highly recommended. And what's funny is you bring up a good point, like learning the extremes of your car. It's one thing that's like, that I've figured out is it's not just for the top M enthusiast either. They have like experiences for just like all their other vehicles. Like they do like a half-day experience, which is just like which is amazing, because what happens is how many people do you know has ever done like an emergency stop?
Right.
They've never done things like that, to where they don't know that when you need to come to a stop, you can literally just put your foot to the floor as hard as you can. Yeah. And you're not going to lose control. And so people don't realize kind of the safety factors of what their car can do, because they don't get the experience that, which you can go do at the performance school. You can go do that experience and they will take you up to 60 miles an hour and you just smash that brake and you feel the ABS and you realize my car's not going to spin out of control and I'm going to die. It's not going to happen,
Right, exactly.
So it's cool that anyone learns from this. It's not just high performance driving. It's learning what the vehicles can do.
Yeah. And one thing I've always learned about driving any car on track is, especially now, modern performance cars are so much more capable than you think they are. Like drive any, I'm blown away sometimes with the cars I drive. It's like, I would run out of courage way before, like an M5 or something. Like I would run out of courage way before that thing runs out of grip and capability.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy what they can do, which is a good thing and a bad thing, I think, to teach customers, because it's a good thing because they're going to feel more confident in their car, but it's a bad thing because they might feel overconfident in their car and they might run out of capability before the car does, and something bad might happen. But it's really surprising like what these things can do. And like you said, you can stand on the brake pedal, like you can really put that thing to the floor, and ABS and traction control and all these systems are going to keep it straight and keep you safe. And it's comforting to know how capable these things are and how well engineered they are, and just what their limits are, and that the fact that their limits are so much higher than anyone is ever going to push them on the road must give a lot of people confidence for driving their cars. It's feel like, okay, I know that it's not going to bite me. I know that this car, I can push it a little bit, I can have some fun, and it's not going to hurt me or hurt anyone else. That's a good thing to teach customers, I think. So it's important for
Yeah.
customers to go do that.
Yeah. So, yep. And that's why it's cool that they have that such a wide range of offerings. They even have, I think, have you been to the South Carolina one? They have off-road tracks, so you can
Yes.
experience what the X5 is capable of doing.
I didn't do the off-road track
picking up
in Spartanburg, but I
wheels.
did the regular track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the off-road track is I had probably, because I don't off-road very often, like actually being able to go off-road in the X5, and you're picking up, there's one section at the South Carolinas where like you climb up this rock wall, and then you get to the edge and they tell you to stop, and you're on two wheels, and the car teeters back and forth on
really?
those two wheels. And then they're like, okay, let go of the brake. And it then teeters over and does its ascent control down. And it's just like, this is your X5, you're taking your family in, and here I am teetering on two wheels off a rock wall. It's just
right.
Being able to just experience what all the brand can do is so much fun.
Yeah, I actually did not in Spartanburg, but I went to Toronto for M Fest, and they did a small off-road course there in an X4. I remember being like, an X4. This is like soccer mom crossover, like X4. It's not going to do this well. And it was surprising. Like, we were in really deep sand and like going up all those crazy hills and then going, just doing all sorts of really impressive stuff. I was like, I can't believe it. Like, I know the brand well. We drive all these cars. Like, I can't believe X4 is doing this. Like, it blew me away. And like you said, the brand has such a wide scope of things. Like, you can go on the off-road course in an X4 or an X5 or whatever, even an X7. And then you can also get an M2 and go on track. So the brand offers this crazy range of vehicles that's really kind of shocking when you think about it.
Yep. And that's why the experience, the performance center is so awesome, is because you find out like the capabilities and why it's a premium vehicle, and why so many enthusiasts are like, yeah, this is why I drive a BMW, is because that's what it can do.
Yeah.
It's not made to be just like your everyday car. It's made to do a lot of things that you can do if you want to.
Right. Yeah. No, it's definitely a really cool experience. And I think every BMW customer should at least try it once, or at least consider it, because you're getting so much. You're getting, you're learning how to drive quickly. You're learning what your car can do. You're getting an appreciation for not just your specific car, but the brand in general. So I think it's a really, really cool opportunity for a lot of customers, and even just enthusiasts. Like, you don't have to be a customer of a brand new car. I'm not a customer of a brand new car, I can tell you that much right now. So, it's really cool for a lot of people to kind of get a good appreciation for the brand and what it can do.
You don't even need to be BMW people. I mean, I don't know how many times I've been to M schools and it's been like Porsche people and Audi people, because the other brands don't offer this broad range of like schooling. I mean, yeah, there's the Porsche centers like in Atlanta and LA, but they're kind of small. They don't have like full on track, and some like Cadillac did like a small, like a tour around the country, but to have like a dedicated, so like to have like this dedicated school with a full track and be able to go from an off-road track to an experience to driving the full factory race cars, is just an awesome experience to be able to go do.
That's really great. Thanks for sharing that with us, because it's something that we probably don't talk about enough. It's something I'm sure BMW would love for us to talk about more. But we don't talk about it enough. And I think Horatio did it a couple of years ago, and he did a story on it. But like I said, that was a couple of years ago. It's good to kind of remind customers that this is available still. Even especially now, during the pandemic, people don't think anything's available. So it's nice to know that, that's still going on, and that it's a good thing to do. And then there are two of them. There's the West and the East. So, you can, do whichever one's closer. obviously I would recommend doing the West because Palm Springs is a lot nicer than Spartanburg, South Carolina. Nothing against Spartanburg.
Yeah.
Any South Carolinians who are going to be pissed off at me. It's really just because Palm Springs is, Palm Springs.
It's a resort town. I mean,
yeah, it's a resort town. It's perfect weather all the time.
Yep.
And it's an amazing facility. Like, I love going there. It really is awesome.
Yeah. And with this new M4 Gt4 experience, really, you can, it went from having, like we were saying, you learn about your car and stuff, to getting the ability to do something that you'll probably never get to do again.
Right. That's
just
no one's going to drive
awesome.
a race car. Outside of racing drivers, no one's going to drive a full blown race car. You know what I mean? Like, who gets to do that? I'm in this job. I have never driven a full blown race car. So the average customer is not really going to.
Yeah, and anyone can go sign up and take advantage of this program. I think they said the next one was already getting pretty full. So it sounds like it's going to be popular. And I'm sure as we get the word out to people, I'm really excited to share some of the video. Hopefully I made enough content and talked enough during that. I was a little in kind of shock and awe throughout it, but
this
at least get to see why it was so much fun.
This supplements anything you missed in that video. Right?
Exactly.
So everyone needs to watch both.
Yeah, exactly. Listen to this first so you get an idea, and then just sit there and listen to the sound of the engine in the video.
Right. Yeah. That's good. Now, is the M4 experience offered in both West and East, or is that just a West?
I think it's just the West Coast.
Okay.
Because they have the full track circuit there.
Right. Yeah. The one Spartanburg's a little small. Yeah. I don't think.
Yeah, Spartanburg has like a full size track, but they kind of put the pieces of it together to make one.
Yeah.
Where the Thermal Club has like a dedicated full track there.
Yeah. Thermal's probably the better bet for that. Yeah. Sure. All right, man. Thanks for jumping on and kind of talking about that.
Yeah, no problem.
That's a really cool experience.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I'm glad we were finally able to get to do that. Hopefully, I mean, the dream is to continue and do a few more stuff like that and bring it to our viewers. Because I think you mentioned earlier, it's not something we cover a lot, and I think it's pretty cool to share, especially with customer racing growing so big. It's cool to be able to show what's available out there for everybody.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I think we should cover it more, to be honest, because it is such a great thing. And, BMW, if you're listening, it's supposed to be really cold next week. So Palm Springs sounds really nice. Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for jumping on and kind of just talking about it and just kind of joining us to tell customers that they can do something really cool they probably don't know about. So.
Exactly. Yeah, anytime, man. It was fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Nate. Thank you for listening, anyone. You can find it, this is the video version. If you want to listen to it, you can find it on all our other podcast channels, and, please subscribe, leave a like, and do all that stuff. So thanks, Nate. Thanks for jumping on.
Cool. Thanks, Nico.